What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily Channel with me, Mike Zakarian, as we continue to dive into what is left of the Boston Celtics NBA offseason, because that's right, we are at September 3rd, which means we are inching ever so closely to players reporting to training camp and actually having some updates from the Celtics roster. Who's going to be that last spot that they're going to fill in on the roster? Are they going to make another move before the trade deadline? The answer is yes, but just how soon is it coming? And you will finally get some real stuff. But I do need to thank the people from Pablo Torre Finds Out for not doing anything specifically for me, but for giving us a gem for something to talk about this morning. So we're going to get into a little bit of that. I encourage you to go listen to that podcast after you're done over here for some more stuff, but it's tangentially related to the Celtics. So we're going to get into all of that, but do me a favor before we get started. Get involved in the chat. Hit the subscribe. Let's keep cruising. Well past 2K subs. Let's keep it moving, but let's get started, all right? So I have yet to even finish this episode. It's so crazy, but it got the wheels turning, and I just wanted to get it out there. So, right, we know the Celtics have new ownership. Our guy, Bill Chisholm, along with, was it State Street or something, with another banking group, was able to raise the capital to go ahead and buy the Celtics. Chisholm is going to be the front man, right? We've talked about this at length, right? Because we've already seen some of the ramifications of what happens when you get a new owner, right? They now need to put their own stamp on their team. They went and made all of these moves like Holiday and Porzingis, right? To make sure that they're saving money, because they spent like almost $7 billion on a team, and then all of a sudden they're roster and luxury tax is going to be $500 million just for one season without your best player after getting knocked out in the second round. Chisholm in the front office said, absolutely not. Holiday, you're gone. Porzingis, you're gone. We're going to be saving money. They've lopped off almost half of that number, or more than half of that number. I believe they're under $220 million now for this upcoming season, and that number's probably going to get even lower, right? We know that they're going to be looking at getting a new stadium. They're looking at moving it around, because right now they're not making any real money off of the Garden because the Bruins hold the ownership stake in that building. So we know that they're going to be finding a new building. We have seen new ownership rear its head in so many different ways, right? We saw Mark Cuban and everything that he did, just being loud and boisterous, being right out in front, making all these aggressive moves, saying these aggressive things to the media. Matt Ishbia and the Phoenix Suns, right? How wild that story's been. How Ishbia pulls the trigger on Bradley Beal, gets rid of all of these assets. Same thing with Kevin Durant. Makes it a win-now situation. And not only do they not win now, they don't really win anything. And then the Phoenix Suns now put themselves in dire straits. KD's on a different team. Bradley Beal's on a different team. They now have like Booker, Jalen Green, and Dylan Brooks with no real future ahead of them because they don't have a lot of their first-round picks. Yet Ishbia is still out there saying some wild stuff. And then we get to Steve Ballmer. And from all accounts, Ballmer, a legend, right? You know, we always see the meme of him like celebrating like a very aggressive white guy in Microsoft in his Microsoft days. He goes in, he builds a new stadium for the Clippers. The Clippers are no longer second fiddle in LA to the Lakers in the same building. They actually get first dibs on their scheduling, right? Because before, the Lakers would always get the better time slots. The Clippers would get what's left in the Staples Center or Crypto.com, whatever the hell the place is called. Builds his own arena. Not only does he build his arena, he makes it fan-friendly, builds the wall. Remember the wall? You got to stand the whole time, but he keeps prices in check, so like real fans are actually getting there. And then when they get into that massive game against the Denver Nuggets, right? The massive game against the Nuggets, what does he do? He flies out some fans, gives them great seats in Denver. Sure, they got smoked. They got absolutely smoked in that game. But just, right, done nothing but great stuff. And if you had asked me, like an hour ago, literally an hour ago, when I woke up, and the first thing, you shake me awake, you throw some water in my face, you say, Mike, if you had to pick one owner that you would like Bill Chisholm to be like in the NBA, who would it be? And I'd equivocally, it'd be Steve Ballmer. Of course, Ballmer, right? He's like fun. He's at all the games. He's clearly a fan, but he's not putting his thumb on the scale. He's putting his wallet on the scale. Not afraid to spend money on the team, on the building, on the fans, right? Seems to be doing everything right in that way. But he's not going to the media. He's not saying wild stuff. He's not making it like his players that you know what I'm saying? He's allowing Lawrence Frank and the rest of the Clippers front office and Ty Lue to manage the day-to-day operations because that's what they are great at. He's great at having a lot of money and like business savvy, of course. That's what I would want. And then today, Today we find out, and I'm sorry for this ramp up, but it's just wild. I'll give you the headline. Kawhi Leonard allegedly signed a $28 million no-show job endorsement deal with a fraudulent tree planting company secretly funded by $50 million from the Clippers owner, Steve Ballmer. And it was all done to circumvent salary. So remember, like when Kawhi signed certain X amount of deals, right? The number, and we've always talked about this, how like Brady, back in the Patriots day, we always assumed Brady was taking less money. One, so I almost dropped an F-bomb. So the Patriots would go sign actual wide receivers, which they did one time in my entire life, was Randy Moss, right? Everybody else has just been like freaking David Givens and I can't even think of another good example. Jabbar Gaffney, right? Those are the types of receivers Brady had. Rashae Caldwell, right? That's what we were dealing with back in the day. But we always thought that he was taking a little less money, knowing that in the future, maybe he'd get a little stake, a little ownership in the Patriots, a little wink, wink, nod, nod here from Robert Kraft being like, thank you for your service, right? Then that ends up not being true because everything goes to hell, and now he's like part owner of the Raiders, right? Another example was Dirk Nowitzki with the Mavs. Stays with the Dallas Mavericks his entire career, and there was always this thought, wink, wink, nod, nod, hey, he's taking a little bit less money because he wants to stay here, and we assume he's going to have part ownership in the Mavericks. Well, then you see Mark Cuban leaves, and now Luka leaves, and basically Dirk leaves too. Anyways, all that to say, we kind of assumed like some of these deals were happening. Clippers are doing it in real time, and they got caught. And again, there's more to unfold from that podcast. I encourage everybody to go listen to it. But the ramifications of an owner swinging that big old around and not really thinking anything's going to happen. The Clippers, who already have been giving away their first-round picks to the Oklahoma City Thunder for the last decade for the Paul George deal, right? Are now going to be out another 4 or 5 first-round picks. They are going to get slammed for this. I want to shout out my guy Weisberg, who shared this with me this morning. He said, worst NBA punishment for the worst NBA punishment for cap circumvention was Joe Smith, former Minnesota Timberwolf, I believe, overall first-round pick. They lost 5 first-round picks. Joe Smith's contract was voided, and they lost his bird rights, which basically meant he could go wherever. Like, they no longer had the advantage of keeping Joe Smith around. This is a situation the Clippers could be in right now. And the Clippers, they don't have a lot of wiggle room anyways, right? We know maybe they saw this coming, and that's kind of the reason they didn't tie themselves up in the Paul George business long term, and Paul George made his way to the 76ers, right? Because they didn't want to pay him. Maybe they saw this as potentially coming out. I don't know. But this puts them in a tough spot. Again, they have, let me see if I can pull up their, I wonder if the best way to pull it up is, let's see, what is the Clippers draft cap or draft picks next 5 years? Because I believe they still have some swaps with the Oklahoma City Thunder here. The Clippers have limited draft picks over the next 5 years, holding only their 2025 first round and second round pick, which they obtained via a different trade. Future years are heavily affected by previous trades, leading to significant lack of picks. So there you go. Let's see, actually, I think I can see it at Fanspo. So they're 2026. They own their 2026 round, 2026 round twos. They have their own their own 2027 is a pick swap with the Thunder. They don't own their 2028. Their 2029, Philly has a pick swap. So their next real pick is 2030. They get their picks back at 2030. And you got to imagine Adam Silver. If this is all proven to be true, Adam Silver's going to come in, and they're not going to have their 30, their 31, their 32 probably. And this is what happens. So I just present this as a cautionary tale where I want my owner spending his money, but like above board, and I want you staying out the way. Go find us an arena when Tatum is back and healthy and this Celtics team is ready to win some championships again and to put themselves in position, then go spend that money. But man, if you had told me again, or just an hour ago, I would have been like, man, I hope Chisholm is like Ballmer. But this is a cautionary tale. That's for damn sure. Anyways, did not expect to do 10 minutes on that, but it got the juices flowing. All right, there was a lot of MVP dialogue yesterday as we get into our guy, Tatum, Jayson Tatum. Right there, I was pretending he was on the French national team. Tatum. I'm curious how many people you're taking ahead of Tatum right now. Because there's just so much slander, and maybe it's because I live in New York and everybody's like, Big Bang, Jalen Brunson. Maybe that's what it is. But like, I will listen, of course. You were like, hey, Nikola Jokic, he's the best player in the world. Fine. I would take Jokic over Tatum right now. And not in like I'm not saying that it's not slanderous. I'm just saying, yeah, Jokic, I get it. And there are different types of players. Like what Tatum brings to the table is he plays almost every game until he blows out his Achilles. He plays both ways. Pause. But you know what I'm saying? Like he's an elite two-way wing who can shoot the ball, who can get to the rim, who rebounds, gets a little bit better every season, right? I love that. But again, Jokic, insane numbers. We could be looking at a top 10 guy all time unless he decides to retire and be with his horses. Giannis, I get it. Giannis Antetokounmpo is the Greek freak. I totally understand, right? He's won a couple MVPs. I totally get if you want to take Giannis over him. I think I appreciate the durability of Tatum a little bit more than what we've seen from Giannis the last few years. Giannis's highs are definitely higher than what we've seen Tatum. But I think I would still, I put Tatum a lot closer to Giannis than I think most people will. I'll listen to your conversation about Luka. I'll hear it. If you want to be like, hey, I would take Luka. Luka's a one-man wrecking machine. Sure. I think I'm going to lean Tatum. Over Luka. Again, I like what the roster flexibility he allows by what Tatum can do. Can run the offense, can slash and cut, can get hot from three, can defend. Luka can't do one of those things for sure, and that's defend. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is in that conversation. I don't know, man. I mean, I know what Shea did the last couple of years, just straight up. He's a 30-point bucket. I get it. Every single night, SGA scores 30. I think I'm putting SGA. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to comfortably say Jokic and Luka. Jokic and Giannis, 1-2. I'm going to comfortably do that. I'm going to put Tatum in that next tier of three with, and I think a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but I'm going to put him in that next tier with Luka, with SGA. And then I don't know. Is there anybody I'm even forgetting there? I don't subscribe to I think Brunson's great. I do think Brunson's a good player. I think Tatum's at a different level than Brunson. I know they beat us. Maybe I'm being salty. Wembanyama, I expect Wemby eventually to be ahead of Tatum. He hasn't done it for a full season yet. So I'm not there. I'm actually going to look at, this isn't the right way to do it, but I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody obvious as I look at some underdog rankings. But and speaking of which, sign up for Underdog, promo code HOLD, HOLD, 100% deposit bonus match. We're throwing a little plug in there. All right, so yeah, Jokic, Giannis, Wemby, SGA, Luka, but I'm still taking Tatum over Ant. I'm still taking Tatum over Cade, over Paolo, over AD. So, I think for the amount of slander and disrespect he gets, to comfortably put him as a top 5 player in the NBA for the last couple of years too, that's where I'd put him. I'm curious where other people feel. I know they get frustrated sometimes with the 3-point shooting and the sidestep threes, and I get it. That is frustrating, but I think overall as a player, I'd put him there. So curious to hear everybody else's ranks on that. All right, let's get to Giddey Up, who is still not signed yet. And I'm telling you, man, I'm slowly talking myself into Josh Giddey. I'm almost hoping the Bulls don't pay him a lot and that it brings his value down. And then again, when the second the Celtics get some flexibility, let's spend some money. Let me just throw some Josh Giddey physical attributes at you and then some statistical analysis, okay? Because Giddey, just a reminder, a restricted free agent like our guy Cam Thomas in Brooklyn, like Quentin Grimes in the 76ers and Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors. It is now September 3rd. All 4 of those guys still have not gotten their shit figured out. And I don't blame them. That's more of the team thing. I think if they were restricted free agents next season, more teams would have so much more money to splash around. I think this would have gotten done and they would have gotten paid a little bit more. But the unlucky timing of when they become restricted free agents is kind of screwed them up. I want to give you some Giddey nicknames, first of all. The Slob Wizard, SLOB, which sounds gross, but it's sidelines out of bounds. Says he's a good passer, the sidelines out of bounds. You got Timothy Chalamet, very fun. Wizard of Oz, Australian. No, I don't know why the hell I said Australian. I don't know. And then Vanilla Magic, haven't heard that one. All right, he's 6'8", 6'8" right now. Yeah, I don't know. Giddey's been in the league for a few years. How old do you think Giddey is? 3, 2, 1. He's 22 years old. He's only almost 23, I guess, right? This is what he did last season. He averaged 14, 8, and 7 played 70 games, 46.5% from the field, 38% from 3, and 78% from the line. That's 5 points better as a three-point shooter versus his career. Career 33% shooter, would not take a lot of them. This past season stepped it up a little bit. I'm gonna go a little bit further here. Let's see Josh Giddey last 20 games, because if you weren't paying attention to the Chicago Bulls, and I don't blame you, he was nuts his last 20 games for the Bulls. Ready? He averaged 21, almost 22 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, and 9 assists per game. And let me just run some three-point numbers at you during that 20-game run. 4 for 6, 3 for 5, 3 for 3, 4 for 4, 2 for 6, 3 for 4, 2 for 5, 2 for 4, 4 for 9. He was out there chucking. And I think two things have happened. He got traded by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They immediately won a championship. He went to like a place of oblivion with the Chicago Bulls. Nobody cares, right? That happened. Plus, the off-the-court stuff was weird before he left OKC. And all allegedly. I don't know what actually happened, but it was weird. I think those two things combined, he basically, in that playoff series against that first one against the Thunder where they lost to the Mavericks, I think, in the second round, he got played off the court, just stopped playing. I think he's evolved a little bit, and he's somebody I want to pay attention to the first half of this season, because if those three-point numbers translate, and it's like continues, and it's not just small sample size, like it continues, I think that would be somebody I would want to target and try to do whatever we could to get our hands on, because I like the fact, like, he's this long, rangy guard, and if the three-point shot there, like, he's not a good defensive player, but the thing that was limiting his ability to get out on the court was the three-point shot. But if he's able to rebound, dime, and shoot at a high level, I think he should be somebody that's been getting paid. But anyways, something to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on Giddey. Keep an eye on Giddey. All right, let's do our last spot here. Normally we get into your comments here, but it was a little bit of a quiet day yesterday. Plus, there was just one Paul Pierce thing I wanted to get into. And then once we do that, we'll wrap up. But do me a favor, hit the subscribe before we get out of here. All right, Paul Pierce was out there, and he said something that I think is going to rub people the wrong way, and I'm going to explain it to you, okay? So Paul Pierce yesterday said to somebody, and again, I'm looking at a tweet, somebody that looked like a combination of Killian Murphy and Conor McGregor. He said he's been the GOAT. This is Pierce talking about LeBron. He's been the GOAT for so long, he's maintained the stats. I think his time is up, but we appreciate what he's done for the league. So I like this. It's a backhanded compliment. Called him the GOAT for so long, but also time's up. Let's get him out of here. So I appreciate Paul Pierce doing some saltiness, but I think it's going to rub a couple of people the wrong way because he called him a GOAT. Now, two ways to interpret this. One, he's saying the GOAT, he's been the GOAT for such a long time, which is kind of indicating an era form, right? So he's been the GOAT during this run, which, like, you can't be the greatest of all time and then be like, but only for a certain amount of time, because then you're not the greatest of all time. You're the greatest of that time. It's different. The second thing, I think this is the real reason I think Paul Pierce is saying it. Paul Pierce has taken it to LeBron many times. There's that infamous game, right? Was it game 6? Game 6 against the Cavs? Or was it? Yeah, the Celtics won 4-2 in that series, where Pierce just outduels LeBron, sends LeBron from Cleveland to South Beach, right? Just like an iconic Paul Pierce. Like, when you think about the Paul Pierce performances, I think of that playoff game against the Pacers. I think of him shitting his pants in the finals. And then I think of that game against Cleveland. I think that's one of his most iconic performances. So how smart of Pierce to be like, you know who the greatest of all time is? LeBron. And you know who beat the greatest of all time? This guy. So shout out Paul Pierce, the original truth, baby, the original truth. I love to see it, and I love to see you guys. Thanks for hanging out today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Go check out that other crazy Clipper stuff. I think that's going to be a fun thing to watch evolve, and it's just a tale for the Clipper, for the Celtics ownership not to follow. But hit the sub. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.